Hello and welcome to this week's IG Live. I'm excited to be talking to Ambreen Butt-Hussain, who is the author of this incredible middle grade series. This is the first book in the series, which I just finished reading, The Unlovable Alina Butt. There's a second book in the series, and I understand she's working on the third. So watch out for that if you love middle grade books or any books that help kids who maybe feel different or they don't fit in, then you're going to love this series. Plus, it's just a really fun read. Very and kind of heartwarming things that happened to her as well. So be sure to read that and stay tuned for our interview. If you have not entered this week's giveaway, be sure to do that. It only takes a few minutes and it ends tonight at midnight. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on here with us. I know it can sometimes be hard to figure out times with kids' nap schedules and all of that. So I'm honored that you took the time to talk with us today.
My son is napping, so we're all good.
Yeah. I was just showing, this is the first book in the series. I don't know if you have a copy of the other to show, but I was mentioning how much I enjoyed reading this book. It's the character of Alina Butt is so wonderful, but which we'll talk about a little bit. But maybe first we can hear a little bit about you and what was your journey to becoming an author. Was that something you always wanted to do, or how did that happen?
Sure, yeah. So, originally I'm a teacher, and I always, the second I started teaching, I felt like this was my calling, this is my passion. In the back of my mind, I always thought if I was to do something else, maybe it would be to write a book. And I had been writing since a young age. Like I always had a journal or a diary that I wrote in every single day since I was like 8. So I feel like I had always been narrating my life in a way. But I don't think I took this dream very seriously. I felt like it was just a dream that would maybe one day, by some, you know, magical moment, come true. And then in 2020, I was kind of going through a hard time in life. And after work, I was just feeling really bored. I was mindlessly watching TV. My life was kind of stagnant at that point. Nothing exciting was happening. And I was like, why am I just sitting here doing something I don't really enjoy and doing nothing kind of? Why don't I do something I've been thinking about for a while? So I opened up my laptop and I just started typing away. And after a little while, the first chapter was born. And then my husband was sitting next to me. So I was like, oh, you want to read this? And he was like, this is actually pretty good. And then from then on, I just, every single day after work, I just wrote. And I had so much fun doing it. And eventually, the manuscript was ready. And then I literally, after that, Googled how to be an author. And from there, I found out I have to find a literary agent. I did that. I sent out, my manuscript to a number of literary agents, heard quite a few no's. And then I met this really nice gentleman named Dave Bedini, who is now my literary agent. And he, within 2 weeks, sold it to Orca Book Publishers. And I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, but I've been blessed to work with really, really kind people who have treated this book and the story with a lot of care and a lot of love. And yeah, the journey has been really good so far, and I really enjoyed it. Something I never thought would happen, but I'm so glad that it did and it worked out.
So when you sat down that first night on your laptop, was it this story? I mean, is that or did you start writing something else and then eventually wrote this one, or was this the first one that you wrote?
This was the first one. And it's funny because even when I tell you that I thought about writing a book, I always knew that it was going to be a story inspired by my childhood. And I always knew that it would start off with the scene that this book starts off with. And that's like the first sentence I wrote is the first sentence in this book. So,
Oh, really? Oh, that's
yeah.
so amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe you could talk, we talked a little bit about that, but maybe you could share with people. I think, it's inspired by your real life. So a lot of people assumed that everything that happened and happens in the book happened to you. Is that true? Or how much of it is kind of fiction
Yeah.
and how much is
Yeah,
reality.
so thank you for asking me that because a lot of people assume when I say it's inspired by my childhood that it's 100% my life or my childhood,
Right.
but it's not. Um, it's, I would say like 60-40 or even 50-50. There's definitely a lot of inspiration I gained from my experiences of immigrating and moving around so much and being the new kid so many times, seeing my parents go through this journey and struggle and, you know, work so hard. Um, so a lot of the family members are very close to my real family members and the inspiration is from them. A lot of experiences are true as well, but there's definitely fictionalization, especially with the first one. I think the idea of being unlovable, I didn't experience it to the extent that my character experiences it. I think I actually growing up liked myself quite a
Mm,
bit, which when I became an adult and I spoke to other women, I realized that this is something that not a lot of other women have. They don't love themselves, unfortunately, and it's quite a common theme. And it really made me sad because I was seeing all these women who were so amazing, whether they were stay-at-home moms or working or you know, in whatever capacity, but they were so great, and they weren't fully realizing it. And I realized that it was something that started at a very young age,
right.
that love for themselves was not practiced and was not instilled. So I really wanted to write about that. And, you know, from a young age, kind of gaining that love for yourself.
Right, which is definitely a theme in the book. And what makes this such a great age to talk about it? I mean, I know you teach middle school
Yeah.
and then you're writing a middle grade book. Why is this such a great age to kind of focus on?
So I feel like, especially when it comes to teaching, a lot of people, when they hear that I teach middle schoolers, they're like, oh, aren't you scared? Like, it's kind of scary. But I love it. Like, I started off teaching grade one, and I would be so tired every single day. And I
Mm,
have so much respect for people who teach kindergarten or grade one because it requires so much out of you. Not that middle school doesn't, but it's just different, I guess. But going back to your question, I just feel like middle graders, when I started teaching them, I was like, these kids get me, like, they get my sense of humor. Like, it's so much fun to just um, build a bond or a relationship with them because I think that's what they really want. Because the reason they come off a little bit scary is because I think they so badly want to feel seen, and feel loved. And the moment that they are able to form that connection with you and feel like you see them and feel like you care about them,
right,
they really open up and they're so loving themselves as well. And so entertaining and funny and, you know, amazing personalities. So I really enjoy, not only teaching them, but then for that reason also writing for them. And I gain so much inspiration from the students that I teach, to be honest, that I have so much fun kind of like adding tidbits into my stories from words they use or,
right.
you know, things that they find amusing or in every way. So yeah, I really like that age group.
What did they think about your books?
So since I became an author, I've only me becoming an author and me becoming a mother kind of went uh,
Mm,
hand in hand. So since I became a mom, I haven't returned back to work full time yet. I'll be doing it for the first time in September. But I did go back to supply teach quite a bit, and I would mention to students that. You know, I write books, and I would tell them about my books as well. They'd be really excited.
mm.
Then they would Google me straight away, and they would look at my picture, and then they would look at me in real life and be like you don't look the same. And I'd be like, social media is a lie, guys. So I'd be like, makeup does a lot for you.
All right.
Yeah. But they would be very excited. They would be like, especially if I meet students that are of South Asian descent or like students that are immigrants, I think they would feel very proud,
Mm,
and inspired as well to see someone else who is like them,
right,
having written a book. And then when they hear that there's a character and the whole story is about basically
right.
someone like them, they would really enjoy that.
Well, talk to us a little bit more about that. So, how do your books help kids who, especially those who are immigrants,
Yeah.
but for any kid who just feels different, which I think is something so many kids feel at that age. How do your books kind of help them feel seen and maybe understand how to deal with it?
Yeah. So I feel like, well, like you mentioned, I think everyone at some point in their life does feel different, whether that is someone who has immigrated or someone who stayed in the same place forever. But whatever your life experience is, I think you do end up at some point feeling a little bit like you don't belong or you feel a bit different. And yeah, I wrote my book for everyone really. And I included a diverse range of characters in my book for that reason as well, so that kids could see themselves, if not in Alina, then in one of her friends or in her bully, even. And I really tried in my book to make these characters as three-dimensional as I could, so give them all a story. So even Alina's bully in this story has a backstory to him, which I hope one day I can kind of like uh, delve deeper into that and maybe even create something for just him. But so I hope that even kids who see themselves in him, for example, feel comforted and feel safe that, you know, he's not a bad character and no one is really innately bad. Everyone has a story to them and different sides to them. Even if you feel like you're different and you don't belong or you're being considered the bad guy or
Mm-hmm.
the person who sticks out in a weird way, it's okay. Like there's, you know, there's still space for you.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I love that aspect of the story about her bully and how she comes to see him in a different light. And that though it takes her a while to forgive him, for how he had treated her, but she kind of understands him better and they become friends. But also, even Alina herself,
yeah,
she goes through a time when she's not treating her friend well. And she comes to understand why she was doing that, because she was jealous or because she wasn't feeling as good as her. And so kind of goes through her own moment where she's not acting how she should, and kind of forgiving herself, and also that her friend is so quick to forgive her. Well, I
yeah,
thought that was a really beautiful aspect of the book.
yeah. But I really did want to show that nobody's perfect. Like even Alina being the main character has her flaws. Um, and yeah, you can work through them and, you know, come to the realization that you can improve and be better.
Right. And I also love that idea that you have a little bit of like the unreliable narrator, and that Alina, especially, you're talking about how she feels like she's unlovable. So you're just getting her perspective, and then you get flashes of how other people see her, and you realize it's not really the same. Like, especially kind of towards the end, her sister is telling her all these wonderful things about herself. Oh, you're so kind. Have you ever noticed this? How our little brother acts towards you, and that she hadn't really realized. Or
Yeah,
I think when she gets picked for a part in the play, and they tell, oh, it's because you're so funny, and she had never really thought of herself that way.
yeah.
So I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole idea of like learning to love yourself, right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes seeing yourself through others' eyes helps as well.
Mhm.
Because I think we're the harshest on ourselves and we are
Right.
so critical about everything, and sometimes it's hard to see the positives.
Mhm.
So surrounding yourself with people that love you really helps in that sense because they can help you see the good.
Well, in the second book, which unfortunately I haven't had a chance to read yet, although I've read a lot about it, that's You're Out of Luck, Alina Butt. So Alina is kind of in a better place in her life, but she's still facing challenges, especially things that other kids aren't going through, like having to go back to Pakistan instead of doing the class trip to Paris. But
Yeah.
then she kind of starts to change her perspective and sees herself as lucky. What do you hope kids take away from the book?
So in this book, she's 12 years old, and like you said, like yeah, things are going wrong in her life, or she feels like everything is going wrong in her life. And I think at that age, and even as adults, there's moments where you feel like things are just, you know, not going your way, and you start kind of the more you focus on that, the more you kind of start falling into that ditch of sorrow for yourself.
Mhm.
So I really wanted kids to kind of learn how to look at things in a positive way and kind of creating that positive mindset or that growth mindset. And I'm hoping that this book kind of inspires them to do that and teaches them little tricks that will help
Mhm.
them do that as well. And yeah, that's the main idea behind this book and what I hope it teaches others.
And especially for kids, I think, from immigrant families, again, you have things that she had. has to deal with that other kids don't, and yet then she kind of sees the like some of the benefits that she has as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, why is it important for kids to have books like yours that are kind of show the everyday life of an immigrant girl, and she's so relatable and she's so likable that obviously immigrant kids would see themselves, but I think even as we kind of mentioned, even other kids would see themselves in her.
Yeah, so I feel like, especially in this day and age, it's really important to have these stories, in order to humanize people that are different to us.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, for Alina, like she is an immigrant girl, but I wrote a story in which it kind of portrays her life as is the life of an immigrant girl or a boy, in a very normal way where she faces a lot of the same problems that other kids do, obviously amplified by some other issues added because she has immigrated from another country. But I really wanted to humanize someone who is different to you, the reader, um, because I feel like that's the only way to kind of uh, be able to empathize with others, and feel for them, so that if someone who is very different to you is facing a problem, or is being treated in an unjust way, you kind of feel it like as if it's your problem, and they're not an other anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You feel they're more like you. So I think for that reason, this story and any story about someone who's different to you is really important for kids to read, and kind of just see their life and see themselves as more like yourself.
Right. Right, and also think through things like when she goes over to a friend's house for the first time, some of the things that might seem strange to her to kind of understand, maybe even how to make someone like that feel a little more comfortable or at ease. What your middle school, like we said, it can be a really awkward time for kids. They're going through a lot of changes, figuring out a lot about themselves, but especially for kids like Alina who are not just trying to fit into a new school, but trying to fit into a new country. What are
Yeah.
some of the particular challenges faced by kids who immigrate at that age that might be different? I have to say, one of the things I love about your book is that you see, you're talking about kind of normalizing or humanizing immigrant kids. She has the older sister and the younger brother, and you see how their experiences, even within the same family, they can have very different experiences to what she has. So even just in this one series, you kind of get the sense, okay, this is her experience, and that might not be the same as other immigrant kids as
Yeah.
well. She has her own story, but
I think for sure everyone has very unique challenges that they face, but then there are some, I would say, common challenges that I would assume that most, if not all, immigrant children face. Um, the biggest one being having to navigate two different cultures, especially when you feel like you have a different set of rules at home to what is outside. So for Alina, like she kind of self-proclaims herself an expert negotiator because she feels that she constantly has to go back and forth with her parents and convince them of things. And it can be something as small as just like, buying your friend a particular birthday gift or going for a sleepover or whatever. But I think this kind of poses quite a challenge for kids when they have to navigate two different cultures. Um, and then, yeah, other than that, I think this huge sense of sadness is quite a challenge because I think I would say for probably all immigrants who move and leave their homeland, I think there's this assumption that, they're getting a better life, so they should be happy or they are happy. But I think there's a huge sense of grief that comes with the move. And you kind of have to go through that while also navigating the two different cultures, and you have to deal with this as well, because they love their life back home, and that's their home. Everybody loves their home, and whatever problems you may be facing, you still love it because that's where you're from, and you have family there, and you have friends there, and you led a whole life over there. So I think that that's a big part of it, like having to deal with missing all of that while creating a new life for yourself. And then lastly, I think what Alina goes through a lot as well, and pretty much the first book, and now I'm writing the third one, so that's coming in my mind, but I won't get into that. Yeah, so like making new friends. And I think while you're dealing with the two different cultures and dealing with the grief and then having to try to make new friends on top of that is a big challenge as well. Because you feel different, you feel kind of sad, but then you have to put yourself out there and you have to try to start all over again. And I think that's quite hard, understandably so, for kids.
Yeah, I mean, hard for anybody, any kid that age, but especially like you say, you have all these layers of things that are happening in their life that they're trying to kind of navigate at the same time.
Exactly.
Well, so I'm curious because you have a very unique perspective. You were born in Pakistan, lived for a long time in the UK, in England and Scotland, and then in Canada. Now you live in New Jersey. So do you think, from what you've seen, are the issues that kids this age face, are they similar in all these places that you've lived? Are there big differences in kind of what, you know, adolescents are dealing with in different cultures?
So I think that in terms of immigrating and whether you immigrate to the UK or the US or you know, the overarching kind of like challenges that I spoke about, I think those remain quite consistent. So I think, and the thing is that at the end of the day, we're all human, right? So no matter where we live, we all experience the same emotions. We feel the same things. We, you know, a kid living in the UK versus a kid living in Pakistan, like they still get embarrassed. They still have to deal with bullies. They still have crushes. Like all that stuff is the same. So I think that that's why I think this book is quite universal, where a kid in Pakistan could pick it up and still enjoy it, and relate to the experiences that Alina is facing, or the challenges that she's facing. And then similarly, a child in the UK and in New Jersey could still read it and relate to the experiences as well. So I think that a lot of them are still similar. Like I'm sure there's unique differences here and there, but like you said, even in the same family, there can be differences. But I think there are similar overarching challenges that all kids face because, like I said, at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all human. We all feel the same thing.
Right, especially kids, the emotions. I love that, and because I at first I was thinking, wonder how this would have been different if Aline had immigrated to the U.S. versus the U.K. But I actually found myself when I was reading having to remind myself that there would sometimes be something that would happen that would remind me she was in the UK, because it just seemed like something that could have happened during my childhood of somebody coming to the school that I was going to. It just very relatable stories and situations, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned your work. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm in a way like kind of glad that it transcends location and borders, that like you said, like you could relate to it as well, and doesn't necessarily only apply to someone who is in the UK. So yeah, I'm kind of glad to hear that.
Good. Yeah, I definitely, especially the time period. I mean, I wonder what it would be. I think it might be more of a difference if it was, because isn't this set like right around the 2000?
Yes.
I wonder what this would have been like if they had social media. You know, so I kind of wondered about that. I think that almost seems like it might make more of a difference than the geography of it. But.
Yeah. Sometimes even I wonder, like, oh, if I had set it right now, like, how would the story change, or what would it be? For sure.
Right.
I think that would definitely make maybe more of an impact, if anything.
Right. Well, you mentioned you're writing a third book. Can you tell us much about that, or do you want to leave it as a surprise?
I can't tell you too much about it, just because as a writer, I go back and forth so much myself, and the editing phase changes so much of it, and I'm just kind of in the midst of my first draft. But I will say that in this part of the book, Alina is going to now be experiencing something new, and she because in the second part her UK visa expires, and she's kind of at this place with her family where they're trying to figure out their next move. So they are getting ready for that next move, and for my Canadian readers, that next move is going to be to Canada. So readers are going to kind of go on that journey with her to a new place. And yeah, a lot of new characters, in fact. But
Oh, I can't wait for that.
yeah.
What is your writing process like? I mean, you mentioned how things kind of change a lot during the editing process. When you were writing book one, did you kind of already have like the arc of what her overall journey was going to be like, or is that kind of from book to book? Does that change?
So in terms of the overall journey, I think after writing book one is when I started thinking about, okay, what would happen next? Like I said, I wasn't even sure if book one would become
Right.
book one.
Right.
But once that was completed, I was like, you know what, I would love for this to be a series. And then I did plan ahead, and I have a journey in mind for her. Let's see if it gets as far as I've planned in my head, but
So
we've
do you
made
have
it.
it planned out for like a number of books after this?
Yes, I do have it planned out for a number of books, but I'm taking it book by book to see where it goes. But I do have it planned out quite a bit. Like Alina's gonna grow up with us.
Oh, I love it. That's so fun.
Yeah. I forgot what your question was.
Oh, just about how
Oh,
much
my
you put in and out and how much it kind of changes as you go.
Yeah, so to be honest, it changes quite a bit because for my first draft, I try to just let my creativity, imagination, inspiration kind of take over, and I just write. I try to have as much fun with it as I can because I know how kind of grueling the editing phase can be.
Right.
So with the first draft, I really do have a lot of fun, and I don't worry about the mistakes, and and I of course do have a overall kind of storyline that I've jotted down before beginning, so I have an idea of where the story is gonna go, but I don't get into too many specifics or details. And then once I have completed the manuscript, I kind of go back, and then there's a lot of editing and deleting and adding of scenes, and so that's why I'm like a lot changes.
Right.
Yeah, even though I have an idea of what's going to happen, I don't want to commit to anything just
Yeah.
yet.
Leave it open in case for inspiration to strike it.
But one thing I do know is that she is going to be making her way to Canada.
Oh,
I can
that's really
feel.
fun. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. This has been so much fun. I really recommend the series to anybody who hasn't read it yet. It's a very fun read, and I think you get really hooked very quickly into the character. Like I mean, the scenes, like what happens in the story, is really pulls you along. But also, I think you get really invested in the characters. Are so great. Like you said, very three-dimensional, and very relatable. So I really enjoyed reading it. I'm sure other people would if they haven't already.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I had a great time talking to you.
For anybody watching, if you joined us late, as always, this is going to be up on our Instagram in just a few minutes, and later we will have it on our YouTube channel. And don't forget, if you haven't entered our giveaway, to make sure to do that. It ends tonight at midnight, and we'll be back next week we're going to have 2 IG Lives next Thursday, so watch out for those. And Ambreen, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.